Today on Dr. Phil, she married her high school sweetheart, but now
A dozen local men are accused of trying to prey on children.
My husband was arrested.
he's behind bars.
Drove an hour to get to this 13-year-old child.
Will she stand by him
You want him back, true?
Sometimes I do feel that.
or walk away?
Amanda and her parents have never seen the Sting video where Jeffrey was caught. What is your reaction to seeing that? Let's do it. Why don't we stop all the drama, stop all the fighting, and let's go get you better.
Here we go. Have a good show, everybody.
If I can help get this family back on track, are you willing to do that?
Ready, three, take.
This is going to be a changing day in your life.
Go, Dr. Phil.
How are you? Oh, to be young and in love. That's how our stories today started out. Two vulnerable girls, hopeless romantics, were only teens when they met their Prince Charmings. But now, both of these Prince Charmings are behind bars. They're in prison. So why would these young, beautiful women even think of standing by their man when their man is a criminal? Or am I being a judgmental parent saying, hey, come on, you expect them to stand by their man, right? But is there a point when you say enough is enough, a mistake is a mistake, and you need to admit it and start over? I'll let you guys decide as these unfold. My first guest, Amanda, met her husband, Jeffrey, in high school, and their life seemed like a fairy tale at first. Take a look.
I was 17 when I met Jeffrey. I decided to ask him out to prom. Right after prom, Jeffrey said, I want to upgrade from the prom date to the boyfriend. I loved that he always wanted to be around me. He gave me a lot of attention. He always knew what to tell me, and I ate it all up. Jeffrey and I were both virgins when we decided to take that step. Eventually he said, you're my first, I want you to be my last, and I want to grow old with you. All of a sudden, I got a text message with a picture of a marriage license and a ring and a car. And he's like, I'm dead serious about this. You're the one. When we eloped, the day, it seemed so perfect. Not a cloud in the sky. It was beautiful. We were holding hands the entire time. And I said that there's no other person that I would rather be with here than you. And when I said I do, I meant it.
Well, when Jeffrey learned about his upcoming deployment, Amanda moved back in with her parents while he stayed on base to save money. Now, she looked forward to a text from him every morning, but on March 30th, there was no text. Instead, she received a phone call. Well, it just changed everything.
My husband was part of an undercover set sting where 19 men were arrested.
More than a dozen local men are behind bars right now accused of trying to prey on children.
Over the course of 5 days, we arrested 19 individuals.
If convicted, they'll be labeled as a sex offender. The Clay County Sheriff's Office is now sending a strong message to sex offenders preying on kids online. Don't play in Clay.
I broke down in tears immediately, and I was disgusted. And I was just like, oh my God, a minor. He was released on bail. He's like, this is all a big mistake. I went to a bar to meet a friend, and he's the one that wanted to use my cell phone because his phone had died, and asked me if I could take him to go see his girlfriend. And he's like, this is so gonna be dropped, don't worry about it. It's just a big mistake. Like, I refuse to be in here for something I didn't do. I automatically believed him.
So, Amanda, being the loving and devoted young wife, immediately believes Jeffrey when he tells her that it was all one big misunderstanding. Instead of kicking him to the curb, she marries him again. Only this time it was in a Catholic church to make it more official. She even stood by her man in court until he took the stand, and his testimony shook her to the core.
2 weeks later, after he was arrested, I flew out and we tried to figure everything out. He said, how would you like to get married in the Catholic Church? So I got dressed up and we got married that Saturday, and it was beautiful. 2 days later, I found out that he had the nerve to take my faith and use it against me. I ended up going to court with him, and I went in holding his hand. I heard him say, members of the court, I take full responsibility for my actions. When I heard him say the first sentence, you know, I'm not stupid, but I felt stupid at that moment. I was devastated. I was like, please God, like, don't let me hear, like, the actual details. He drove an hour away to meet this, you know, minor, and Jeff had condoms in the car when he got arrested. So I was like, please, I don't want to hear what's next. I know my husband's sexual preferences, and I think the second jab in the heart was when he talked to a 13-year-old about sexual positions, and I was like, that's so disgusting, and why are you talking to somebody like that that's not your wife? Sorry. I think that he really thought that, oh, because, you know, now we're married before God, it'll be harder for you to leave me. And that's where it hurts me the most, because when I was saying I do in the church this time, it was so much stronger. And I really thought that we were gonna, I just felt really betrayed.
Well, Amanda's parents didn't just feel betrayed. They were just plain furious.
I am beyond disgusted. I don't even know where to begin. I don't even know how to express how I feel about it and how it's destroyed. What a beautiful person she is.
What Jeff did is horrible. It didn't shock me this time. I don't think it would shock me if I found out he'd done it before. It's fortunate that he got caught. Had he not got caught, I think this could have gone on for years.
Amanda hid a lot from us. In fact, when we discussed doing this, she told me, I'm afraid you guys are going to hear the truth. And that makes me worried, because I'm going, what have we done to make her feel so uncomfortable to come to us and talk to us?
I have so much disappointment in Jeff, and no, I'm pretty angry. I'm pretty angry.
If I could say anything to Jeff, it's you're a little for doing this to my daughter. For hurting her so bad.
Well, listen, I'm glad to meet the three of you, but I'm very sorry for the circumstance. I wish we were here talking about almost anything else. How can I help you in this situation?
This whole ordeal has like consumed my mind. I'm an emotional wreck. I don't know what to do. I literally wake up with a racing heart, and I go to bed with a racing heart, and I want to be able to move forward.
You say you wake up with a racing heart. That tells me you're talking to yourself a lot. What are you saying to yourself about all of this?
Why wasn't I enough? And why a 13-year-old or a minor was more appealing than me? If there's something wrong with me. I don't know. I really believe that he loved me, and I feel like I've wasted a lot of myself with him, and I don't know how to get that back.
And what do y'all hear when you hear her saying all of this?
I hear her saying all that, but I don't think she's being honest. Coming here was a big deal for her because she was afraid if she did this, he wouldn't talk to her again.
Let me give you guys some advice right now, if I can. You need to understand she's in a very difficult time right now. And the last thing she needs is his rejection and your judgment. And I know you're doing it because you're scared, right, but that's really not what she needs right now. You're also confused because you want him back. True? Part of you.
I just want, he's my husband, and sometimes I do feel that way, but other times I'm so hurt that I just want to be done with him.
You believed him when he told you this story, right?
Yes, I did.
You thought, oh, just a mistake. My friend used my phone.
Yes.
You believed all that?
Yes, I did.
To the point that you actually spoke on his behalf in court, right?
Yes, I did.
And then you heard him get up and confess to everything.
Yes.
And you heard him say things about what he was saying to what he believed to be a 13-year-old child. You heard him say things that he said to you.
Yes, I did.
You heard him talk about sexual positions and sexual preferences and things that he wanted to do that he, in fact, has said and done with you.
Yes, I did, and it hurt really bad. And I just really didn't want to be there to hear it. It was just another jab in my heart after his opening statement. It just verified everything and made it real.
But you needed to hear that, right?
Yes.
Okay. Now, I want to tell you how all of this comes together. We're going to take a break, let you catch your breath here for a minute. There is something Amanda and her parents don't realize about Jeffrey, because he's told them another lie. And I'm going to tell them the truth about that when we come back. Amanda and her parents have never seen the Sting video where Jeffrey was actually caught. What is your reaction to seeing that?
I never believed for a moment that my daughter would ever be married to a sexual predator.
A part of the reason why I believe that he could be capable of like having that pedophile interest is he liked the whole innocent thing. I've always been known as like the good girl type thing, and he always played on that. His fantasy was a schoolgirl fantasy. The pigtails, the schoolgirl stuff. Now that I look back, I think he like fed off of that innocence. He likes that innocence.
Jeff is a pedophile. Bottom line, he is. He's guilty of it. He is a pedophile.
Okay, Amanda and Jeffrey were high school sweethearts, married for 2 years. Now, she thought her life was a fairy tale until her husband, Jeffrey, was busted by cops in an online sex sting. Now, just a month ago, he was sentenced to prison and now has to register as a sex offender. All right, Amanda and her parents have never seen the Sting video where Jeffrey was actually caught red-handed. And this is a harsh reality, and I want you to take a look.
In this video, the takedown team led by a sergeant awaits inside the door of the house. Jeffrey Smith thought he was there to meet with a 13-year-old girl. Mr. Smith was fairly compliant. He didn't show much resistance. We pulled him into the house and closed the door so none of the neighbors knew that we were actually conducting this operation. Mr. Smith was handcuffed for his safety and for our safety. We search to see if he has any weapons, and we also see if he has any paraphernalia, if he has any drugs, or if he has any items that he promised to bring for the 13-year-old girl.
Okay, now, you see him here. He shows up, T-shirt, flip-flops. They're searching him. They've asked him if it's his car out there. Now, he made an excuse. He said he was there to talk to this girl about being inappropriate on the internet. And that's it. So what is your reaction to seeing that?
It just verifies that he's a liar. And that hurts me even more.
He drove an hour to get to that door, right?
An hour from the ship, that's what I was told.
He drove an hour from the ship to get to this 13-year-old child.
Yes.
Sergeant Patrick Galemi is joining us on Polycom right now. His team was responsible for catching Jeffrey and 21 other online predators. Sergeant, can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Okay, thank you so much. When this went down with Jeffrey, he made excuses for why he was there, true?
Yes, he did. He made the comment that he was there to teach the 13-year-old girl about the dangers of meeting with men and talking about sex on the internet.
Right, and you guys, what you guys do when you set up this sting is you go into a chat room and you identify yourselves as a child, a 13-year-old girl or whatever, right up front, correct? So there's no question who they think they're talking to.
Correct. As a matter of fact, the very first detailed comment that was made to Mr. Smith was that the girl was 13 years old, and then the second comment after that was to reiterate that she was 13 years old.
Right, and what was his expectation of why he was coming to this house based on the conversation?
His expectation was that he was going to meet with the 13-year-old girl he was going to take her to a store to buy a sex toy, and he was then going to teach her how to use the sex toy to enhance the sexual experience.
For a 13-year-old girl?
Yes, sir.
Mm-hmm. And did y'all search his car when he was arrested?
Yes, the car was inventoried during the arrest, and we found a condom in the car.
So, I mean, he clearly was prepared to have sexual relations when he arrived on the scene if he had a condom in the car.
Absolutely, without a doubt. He traveled 41 miles at 1 o'clock in the morning to meet with this girl. There's no doubt in my mind his clear intention was to come there to have sexual relations with an underage girl.
Did you get the sense that this was the first time Jeffrey had ever done this, or did you get the sense that he was pretty practiced at this?
I would say that in terms of the online chatting, he was very practiced. He did not balk any of the conversation. It was very smooth. He understood the language. There was no hesitation in terms of the language he used and the things that he was expressing. I cannot speak toward the ages of the people that he would normally do this with, but it's obvious that he was at least looking in the areas that we were posting in to find people to have relations with. Because, Dr. Phil, you can't find us if you're not looking for people to have sexual relations with. We don't trap you, you come find us.
Yeah, you got to know where to look, and it is not easy to find. Now, Amanda, how long did Jeffrey tell you he was going to be in prison?
2 years.
2 years? Sergeant, how long has he been sentenced to be in prison?
The state attorney's office offered, the minimum plea they offered was 5 years in prison and 10 years of sex offender probation. This is a very expensive probation. It's a very difficult probation to maintain.
So the plea he took was 5 years, not 2?
Correct.
So it's 5 years, Amanda, not 2. He lied to you about that. That's just a beginning place for what I want to share with you. Sergeant, we'll let you get back to your very important work. I cannot thank you enough for being here today, and I can't thank you enough for the great work you guys are doing down there in your county. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Next, now does Amanda think she should file for divorce? We're going to find out what she thinks, and I'm going to tell her what all of this confusion she's feeling is about, and hopefully we're going to unravel this ball of emotional yarn. We'll be right back.
Everybody's asked me, are you in love with Jeff? I love him. It's hard to turn that off. He'll always be my first.
I told Amanda, this is a deal breaker.
Sorry, wedding picture. I was really happy.
When he gets out of jail, I can picture them still together because Amanda still hasn't let go. She's still in love with him.
Everybody's asked me, are you in love with Jeff? I love him. It's hard to turn that off. He'll always be my first. Of course, I'll always love him.
If Amanda doesn't divorce him, I would feel devastated, disgusted.
I'm going to file for divorce.
I feel she says she's going to divorce him for everybody around her because that's all of us think and feel. I told Amanda there are many things you support your spouse or your family, and then there's a handful of deal breakers, and I said, this is a deal breaker. I only have one good punch left in my body, and I'm saving that for Jeff because I know he's going to come back and he's going to look for Amanda, and that's what I'm saving it for.
I want Dr. Phil to convince Amanda to divorce Jeff immediately, like today.
As her parents, you want her away from this guy. Without question, clean break and gone, correct?
Yes, correct.
That's what you want more than anything. Tim, same thing?
Yes, that's what I want.
Do you believe that they love you and want the best thing for you?
Yes, I do.
Okay. And let me ask y'all, because I've tried to kind of hold you off of her a little bit here. Are y'all angry with her? Are y'all upset with her?
I'm not angry with her. I'm very angry with Jeff. And maybe I'm a little confused about how she feels I'm not in her position, so my heart feels for her.
Yeah, how do you answer that?
My honest opinion about this whole thing is I am a little frustrated with Amanda. And the reason is because I always had this impression of Jeffrey. He just always rubbed me the wrong way, never trusted him. And I'm kind of frustrated with her because she let him in so much that now I think it's so hard for her to pull away. You know, it's so hard for her to pull away from him. And I understand that because we taught her values and we taught her morals about marriage and love, but it's frustrating because as a mother, you don't want to see your kid go through this.
Sometimes when we get scared, it comes across as anger and judgment because we want it to be right so much. Look, one thing you got to learn is you don't blame the victim.
Right.
You don't blame, this girl is a victim. And you don't dogpile the victim here and start saying, hey, you, do. She's a victim here. The last thing she needs right now are the two people in her life that need to be her soft place to fall, need to understand the confusion that she's going through right now, need to understand that this is spinning out of control for her. And what she gets from you is finger pointing, and what you need to do is you need to that. Let me tell you, she doesn't need that from you. So put a lid on that, zip it.
No, it is true. I'm guilty of it.
Yes, you are.
I honestly.
I've known you for 20 minutes, and I can see that. Having said that, let me temper that. You have obviously done a terrific job of raising a wonderful young woman here.
Thank you.
Seriously, you guys are to be commended, not only for raising a wonderful daughter, but for being here today. You obviously do have her back. You obviously do love her. You obviously do support her, or you wouldn't be here with her right now. Listen, you need to understand something. Your husband, and he still is your husband, has some serious problems here. And your thinking is he's ill. And you're right. He does have an illness here. But sometimes you can have illnesses of choice. And it certainly seems that he has chosen to pursue some things here that are really maladaptive and unacceptable. Now, is he going to get better in jail? Highly unlikely. Because you can call jail a lot of things, but a therapeutic milieu is not one of them. We generally don't look at that as one of the most curative experiences in people's lives. It doesn't seem to me that he has yet owned any of this, apologized to you, shown any remorse for how he's turned your world upside down or what he's put you in. So at this point, he still seems to be behaving in a very narcissistic me way without any consideration for you whatsoever. And in fact, his family is blaming you as well. True?
True.
At this point, I don't see any signs that would suggest to me movement in a direction towards a return to health or anything that would suggest a higher level of adjustment at this point. And I'm not saying that he should, because he's not getting treatment and there's not anything likely to intervene. So now you're saying you're feeling confusion, and I'm going to tell you why you're feeling confusion when we come back. Now, you said he's a pedophile. And just so we have our words right, that's probably not true. So we just want to use the right language. And for everybody at home, a pedophile, by the way, is a psychiatric disorder, and it describes persons, just technically, that are 16 years of age or older, and it's typically characterized by a primary or exclusive sexual interest in prepubescent children, generally 13 years or younger. And that doesn't fit this case. It doesn't mean he's not a sexual predator at all, but pedophile, you want to use the right terminology here. Next, why would Jeffrey choose a 13-year-old girl over his own wife? You want to know that?
Yes, I do.
And why you're still feeling a pull for him. I'm going to tell you that when we come back.
I just feel really bad about myself lately. That's why
Well, I know it's because he's put you through this. He's made you question everything about yourself. She just sees everything wrong with her. I have a big nose, I break out, I'm not pretty, I'm not thin enough. There must be something wrong with me.
I asked him why a lot, and he said he was depressed and lonely, but I really don't feel that that's an excuse. I want to know why I wasn't enough. You know, there are days where I just look in the mirror and I'm like, I must be that bad that a 13-year-old see more appealing than me, you know, or what did I do wrong?
I asked you what you were talking to yourself about. You remember what you said? You said, what's wrong with me? Why would he want a 13-year-old instead of me? What did I not do right? What did I do wrong? Why was I not enough? But I want you to understand, this isn't about you. What he is experiencing and what he is attracted to comes from within. It has nothing to do with you. And that you're in that phase right now, you want to prove to yourself that you are enough. But you don't need to prove that. You weren't not enough to begin with. It had nothing to do with you. You are grieving the loss of the man you wish he was. You are not grieving the loss of the man that he is. You are grieving the loss of the fantasy, the man that you wish he was. You wish he was that boy in high school. You wish he was that boy that proposed to you, that was going to spend the rest of his life with you. That's the fantasy. You're not grieving for the sexual predator that's spending 5 years in jail for driving 41 miles to see a 13-year-old child. Is that who you want back?
No.
Of course not.
That hurts to hear. Because I really did feel like it was my fault for a long time.
Why do you say that hurts to hear?
Because it's true. I did want, you know, the high school, you know, sweetheart, I guess, fantasy, with him. And it just hurts when you say that there's something wrong with him. It makes me think, why didn't I just give up before, just stop being with him? Instead, I stayed. So I don't know why I did that.
But understand, you don't need to win him back to prove that you're woman enough, that you are enough to feel good about yourself. You don't need his validation. And think about it. You would be validated by a sexual predator. You don't need his vote.
No.
And with your permission, I am going to make arrangements to get you some professional help with that, to help you unravel this as you go through the process of unfurling this. And I do recommend that you, in an orderly fashion, start divorce proceedings. You have been betrayed on so many levels here. And if you will accept it, I want to get you some very solid professional support to help you navigate through this terrain.
Yeah.
Can you give yourself permission to do that?
Yes, I can. Yes.
Do you feel better about this?
Yes, I do.
Is it clear to you now?
Very clear, thank
Have I
you.
kept my promise?
Kept your promise.
I am going to shut up then. All right. All right, coming up. In a broken love story, her ex-boyfriend is serving 30 years in prison for sexual assault of a child. She was the child. We'll be right back.
I fell in love with Hector really fast. He told me that I could make a lot of money. Looking back on it now, I still can't believe that I did those things.
2 years ago, when my next guest, Sari, was just 16 years old, she fell in love with 24-year-old Hector. 8 years older. Sari says Hector convinced her to quit school, throw away her dreams, and then do the unthinkable, sell her body for money and give him the profits. Take a look.
My problem is that I'm still in contact with my ex-boyfriend. Hector is in prison for at least 15 years for compelling of prostitution and sexual assault on a child. Hector was my boyfriend and my pimp. Hector and I first started talking when I was 14. It was over the internet. Within a few days of being together, he told me that I could have sex with men for money. He posted an ad on Craigslist with pictures of me. I was taking calls that day, meeting with 2 or 3 different guys a day. I don't know how many men I've been with, but probably close to 200. I gave all the money that I made to Hector. I wanted to tell my family what was going on, but I was scared of leaving Hector because I knew that he would come and find me and he would take me back. I took a call one day and met up with this guy, and he turned out to be a cop. I was arrested on the spot, and they did investigations and caught Hector. I found out I was pregnant a few weeks after Hector got arrested. My child with Hector is a 1-year-old girl. I still can't believe that that was me and that I did those things, and I feel disgusted with myself.
You were 14 when this started, and I think what a lot of mothers are interested in right now is how this guy was able to convince you to do this. Because you had never done anything like this before. When he first asked you to do this or brought this up to you, you said, oh no, I'm not going to do something like that. How did he convince you to do this?
Basically, he told me, we were going to run out of money, and, he didn't have a job, so he kind of left it up to me, kind of made it seem like a glamorous lifestyle. I could have whatever I wanted, nice cars, go shopping, and I felt like I was obligated to give him what he wanted because I was staying with him, and he was providing shelter for me, food for me, and I felt like I didn't really have a choice.
Were you afraid of him, or did you think you were in love with him?
I was in love with him.
And how did he make it seem glamorous to you?
Saying, you can make $1,000 in a week, and all you have to do is just spend like 5 minutes with these guys, and you'll have all this money, and just made it seem like it would be worth it.
So what did your mother think about, where did she think you were? How did you?
She didn't know where I was. I didn't tell her where I was. I kind of just ran away and didn't tell her where I was staying, what I was doing, who I was with. She had no idea.
When Hector was caught, did you testify?
Yes.
And you testified against him?
Yes.
What did he think of that?
I think he was surprised by it. I think that he was confused because he didn't understand why I was so angry towards him, why I was doing this since we were so in love and I had his child. Why was I putting him away for 30 years?
Are you sorry you did?
Sometimes I do regret it.
So now he's in jail, minimum of 15 years, could be there for 30 years.
Mm-hmm.
You're in contact with him now.
Yes.
All right, we're going to take a short break. Up next, Sari says her new boyfriend and mother have no idea the extent to which she is connected with Hector at this point. We're going to talk about all of that and talk to them when we come back.
My family never tried to talk to me. I didn't feel close to them. I didn't feel wanted when I was home. 2 days after my arrest, one of Hector's ex-girlfriends messaged my mom on Facebook and told her what I was doing. My mom was freaking out. She didn't want to believe it. My mom is very controlling. She wants me to do what's best for my daughter, but she also acts like my daughter is hers. I feel like nobody understands why I'm writing Hector and why I have feelings for him. I do wish that my parents understood where I was coming from as a mom.
To make things more complicated, Sari has a new boyfriend, Will, who is joining us now. Will, thank you for being here. And you guys have a very nice relationship,
yes,
right?
We do.
How do you feel about her, and how do you feel about her past?
The past is the past.
Your mother is on the phone, and I would like to plug your mom in here for just a minute. Are you there?
Yes.
We've been talking here about everything that has gone on with Sari, about the fact that she's in contact with Hector at this point, and in fact, that they've been kind of exchanging love letters a bit here.
I would rather her not be in contact with Hector at all. He is extremely manipulative, and he still has control over her. It just makes me sick.
You're shaking your head no. Why are you shaking your head no?
Because he doesn't control me anymore. He doesn't have that hold on me anymore. I feel like I'm past that.
Okay, well, actually, you talked about it a little bit on this tape piece. Let's take a look at this.
Will knows that Hector and I have been writing for a few months. He knows that Hector does have feelings for me. Will doesn't know that we are still writing now and that I do have feelings for him. The first letter I received from Hector, he was telling me how he still loved me, how he missed me and thought about me every day, and how he loves his daughter and wants to be a family. When I first read the letter, I was very emotional. I was crying and shaking. All the feelings that I had just came back just like that. And when I heard that he still wanted to be with me and still loved me, it made me feel like maybe I could give him a second chance. I do question if testifying against Hector and putting him away was the right thing to do. I feel like I didn't really give my daughter a chance to get to know her father. And my biggest fear is that she will end up hating me for putting her dad away and for not giving him a chance for her. Hector isn't happy that I'm with Will. He doesn't like that there is another guy around his daughter. The problem is that I do love Will and I care about him very much and he treats me very well. But Hector is the father of my child, and if I have a chance to give my daughter the family she deserves, then I will.
Will, what's your reaction to what she just said?
I'm confused.
Okay, well, let me intercede here, and I hope I'm going to help you feel a little better about this, okay? Will you hear what I have to say here, please, Sari? Psychologically speaking, there are a lot of mechanisms going on here that are impacting you. And I'm really going to appeal to you as a mother, because once you have a child, you have a higher duty than any duty you've ever had. Because for her, you're it. You're her chance. With everything that happened with you, with being controlled by Hector, prostituted out by him, being on drugs to numb the pain or whatever, your social emotional development was just arrested at that age and then begins to kind of regress. So right now, emotionally, developmentally, you're functioning at a very young age. And the feelings that you have for this Hector character, they're certainly not love. They're kind of a response to authority. It's almost a father-child type reaction. And so when he writes things to you that he does in these letters like loves and misses, and you just get all warm inside, that's like father approval. And if you're very childlike, you can have very real reactions to that, but they're not genuine, and it can be very misleading to you. And when you say she deserves, I owe her the family she deserves, you're exactly right. You owe her the family she deserves. She doesn't deserve a jailbird pimp father in her life. That's not what she deserves. You're having some authority figure knee-jerk reactions here. And because things have been fixated for you at that age, and you still have that authority dynamic in there that needs to be unraveled for you. And you need help with that. You know, there's a very specialized area of help in the field of psychology that deals with survivors of sexual molestation, survivors that have been the victim of sexual crimes. I think you're a very courageous young woman, and I think you deserve a second chance at this. And I want to get someone to help you with that. It's just as our gift to you. And I will let them talk to you about what role Hector should or shouldn't have. Will you accept that help for you and for your daughter? Will you do that? And will you kind of put this Hector on hold until that help starts? I will get that in place right now. And will you promise me that you won't give up on her and this little girl until we get that thing going?
I will never give up on her.
Okay, I appreciate that. All right. What every young person in love needs to know when we come back. I wanted to talk about all of those out there that are young and in love. I mean, here's a real piece of advice. You get into a relationship, if you have to stop being all of who you are to be half of a couple, the price is too high. If you've got to give up any part of who you are to be half of this couple, the price is too high. The demands are too high. Because see, what a couple does is it complements who you are. It doesn't replace parts of who you are. Log on to drphil.com for more information about today's show. Thanks for being here. So long. Thanks for watching. See you guys.